A president's life, cut short not by an enemy of the state, but by a man convinced of divine instruction. On July 2nd, 1881, at the Baltimore and Potomac Railroad Station in Washington, D.C., President James A. Garfield prepared for a summer holiday. The 20th U.S. President, barely 4 months into his term, was a man of intellect and promise. Yet, in that bustling terminal, an unseen force of instability was about to converge upon him with tragic, lingering consequences that would stretch far beyond a single bullet. That force was Charles Guiteau, a failed lawyer, preacher, and aspiring politician, a man of immense, self-aggrandizing delusions. Guiteau truly believed he was instrumental in Garfield's 1880 election victory. He'd penned a few speeches, largely ignored, yet convinced himself he was owed a diplomatic post, specifically the consulship in Paris, France. Repeatedly rejected and dismissed from the White House, Guiteau's resentment festered. His grandiosity warped into paranoia. He convinced himself that President Garfield's cabinet appointments were tearing the Republican Party apart, creating a schism between the stalwarts and the half-breeds. Guiteau, in his twisted logic, concluded that Garfield must be removed. He purchased a .44 caliber British Bulldog revolver, choosing it specifically because he believed it would look better in a museum display. For weeks, Guiteau stalked the president, looking for an opportune moment. His target was not merely a man, but, in Guiteau's mind, a divinely ordained obstacle to the nation's well-being, a belief that would define his defense. As Garfield entered the station, Guiteau stepped forward, fired 2 shots. One bullet merely grazed the president's arm. The other, however, lodged behind his pancreas, a wound not immediately fatal, but one that doctors of the era were woefully unprepared to treat. This began an agonizing 79-day ordeal, a period of suffering that would prove more deadly than the initial attack. The medical practices of 1881 were rudimentary at best. Dr. D. Willard Bliss, Garfield's primary physician, repeatedly probed the wound with unsterilized fingers and instruments, desperately trying to locate the bullet. Antiseptic understanding, championed by Joseph Lister, was still largely ignored in America. Each intervention, intended to save, instead introduced more infection. Even Alexander Graham Bell, inventor of the telephone, attempted to locate the bullet with an early metal detector, but the device was hampered by the metal bed springs. Garfield slowly wasted away, battling fever and infection, his body weakening until, on September 19th, 1881, he finally succumbed to a ruptured splenic artery and subsequent hemorrhage. The nation mourned. Guiteau's subsequent trial became a bizarre spectacle. He declared himself an agent of God, claiming the deity had ordered Garfield's removal. His performance was erratic, his sanity widely debated, yet the jury found him guilty. He was hanged on June 30th, 1882. Garfield's death, though tragic, spurred critical reforms in presidential security and, crucially, accelerated the adoption of antiseptic practices in medicine. A dark chapter, but one that ultimately illuminated a path forward. Next, we'll delve into the political machinations that fueled the